Dawn breaks over the vast Los Llanos flooded savannas of Colombia. In this harsh landscape, survival demands constant movement and endless grazing.
For these massive rodents, the daily search for food is relentless.
Their senses are acutely tuned to the shifting winds of danger. There is absolute safety in numbers. The herd awakens as one.
Every species here is bound to a strict, unforgiving circadian rhythm.
The young must keep pace, learning the treacherous terrain immediately. The dominant male leads the exhausting trek toward fresh grazing grounds. The slightest disturbance in the brush commands total, immediate silence. The migration route is carved deeply into the memory of the herd. Life stirs above as the giants arrive at the feeding grounds.
Giant rodent survival requires consuming up to 8 pounds of grass daily.
The water is a refuge, providing both endless vegetation and cooling relief. For now, the savanna offers a fleeting moment of pure tranquility. But the path ahead grows treacherous as the waters run deeper. A spectacled Caiman watches closely, waiting for a moment of weakness. They know they share this precious resource with ancient, lethal neighbors. One mistake by a vulnerable calf could invite instant, brutal tragedy. Paranoia is their greatest defense mechanism in a world of predators. Even the insects here mount a relentless assault on the giants. The flooded plains provide life for an astonishing array of creatures.
Mud serves as vital armor against the fierce sun and biting flies.
Vigilance is hardwired into every fiber of their social being. They must cover ground quickly before the brutal midday heat sets in. Exhaustion comes quickly when dragging 100 pounds through the muck. This South American biome is as beautiful as it is unforgiving. A sudden shift in the breeze warns of unseen dangers lurking. They must consume enough fuel now to endure the arduous day.
But peace here is just an illusion, easily shattered without warning.
Instinct drives them toward the safety of the deep, dark channels. Taking to the water entirely changes the dynamics of their survival.
Their dense, barrel-shaped bodies are perfectly engineered for this exact environment. Every semi-aquatic mammal relies on this stealthy profile to avoid detection.
In the water, their clumsy terrestrial gait transforms into pure grace. But the river cannot sustain them forever. They must graze again. The dense thickets are home to killers waiting for an opportunity. A snapped twig triggers an immediate, paralyzing response across the herd. They analyze the air currents, searching for the invisible feline threat. By forming a unified wall, they eliminate any vulnerable blind spots. The ocelot retreats. The impenetrable brush keeps its deadly secrets hidden. This staggering ecosystem biodiversity is entirely dependent on the seasonal floods. They rush toward the cooling relief of the deep mud wallows. Without sweat glands, coating themselves in wet earth prevents fatal overheating. The thick armor successfully repels the relentless clouds of biting insects. Bonded by mud and survival, the family unit rests as one. As morning wanes, every creature prepares for the brutal midday endurance. The changing terrain demands massive energetic output just to keep moving. Their constantly growing teeth act as sheer biological grinding machines here. Shade becomes the most valuable commodity on the baking savanna plains. They must conserve energy now for the perilous evening trek ahead. The morning window closes rapidly as the suffocating humidity begins to rise. Even at their macrofauna scale, they remain vulnerable to the shadows. Physical strength is tested with every step through the unforgiving brush. Designed for the swamps, walking on parched earth is incredibly taxing. The only objective left before the searing midday heat is finding water. As the air thickens, the entire ecosystem slows to an absolute crawl. Returning to the deep channels brings instant thermal relief and security. Buoyancy takes the incredible weight off their exhausted, muddy limbs entirely. Core temperatures drop, allowing the giants to finally catch their breath. For the youth, the river is both a fortress and a playground. By midday, a heavy, lethargic stillness dominates the vast flooded plains. Their complex social herd dynamics are critical for surviving the brutal afternoons. Energy expenditure is kept to the absolute bare minimum during these hours. Their thick, sparse coats are perfectly adapted to dry rapidly between swims. Even in the deepest slumber, at least one sentinel remains partially alert. Even the foulest, stagnant blooms provide crucial moisture and quick trace minerals. The midday marathon is simply about enduring the suffocating thermal blanket overhead.
Every drop of precious moisture dictates their behavior and ultimate survival strategy.
Finding a comfortable place to rest requires constant, tiresome, minor adjustments.
They share these deeper channels with the apex hunters of the river.
They are capable of remaining completely submerged for up to 5 minutes.
This evolutionary trick renders them completely invisible to land-dwelling predators above.
Beneath the dense root systems, the herd finds absolute, much-needed sanctuary. The deepest channels are simply too exhausting for the youngest calves alone.
The green anaconda navigates the shallows, a silent and suffocating lethal threat. The sudden scent of reptilian musk triggers immediate, paralyzing alarm bells.
A single miscalculation here means a brutal, thrashing fight for life. Predator evasion tactics dictate every subtle movement they make near the banks.
The island provides a temporary sanctuary, completely surrounded by murky uncertainty. The relentless biological clock dictates that the herd must eventually move again. Stiffness sets in quickly, making the first movements incredibly slow and arduous. They must prepare to traverse the most dangerous stretches of the swamp. The matriarch intuitively tests the water, ensuring the path remains clear.
As the air pressure shifts, the grueling midday heat finally begins breaking.
The changing wind carries fresh scents, waking the predators from their slumber.
Every calorie consumed this morning is now burned, fighting the heavy sludge.
The mud acts like quicksand, testing their immense physical endurance continuously.
United by instinct, they push forward toward the afternoon grazing grounds.
The Orinoco crocodile dominates these waters, demanding absolute respect from the herd. Every obstacle in the water requires tremendous energy to break through.
They utilize the slipstream of their leaders to conserve vital momentum. Above the surface, their hearing remains sharply tuned for incoming threats. Arriving at the evening grazing grounds signifies a temporary victory. The cooling afternoon air triggers a frenzy of feeding across the savanna. They eat relentlessly, making up for the calories lost during midday. Their incredible digestive systems process the toughest vegetation nature can offer. It is a brief window of prosperity before the shadows completely lengthen. But even in paradise, the primal instinct for survival never truly rests. The late afternoon sun casts long, ominous shadows across the landscape. Nocturnal hunters slowly awaken, preparing for the incoming darkness. The mood shifts rapidly as grazing gives way to rising paranoia. Even the faintest rustle of dry leaves demands immediate investigation.
The herd consolidates its mass, creating an impenetrable biological wall. They must secure a safe position near the water before nightfall.
The matriarch remembers the safest routes to the deep river channels. Stepping exactly in the matriarch's footprints reduces the risk of ambush. Any straggler instantly becomes a prime target for apex predators here. Their heavy tracks tell the story of a grueling daily migration. The river provides salvation, but it is heavily guarded by ancient reptiles. Entering the deep water requires total confidence that the depths are clear. The sentinels calculate the risks, scanning the shadows beneath the surface. The adults instinctively shield the calves from the treacherous water's edge. Their incredible olfactory senses can detect a lurking threat underwater. With the water deemed safe, the thirsty giants finally lower their heads. Hydration is crucial, but this is their most vulnerable physical position. Every sip is taken with eyes wide open, watching the opposite bank. The entire herd quenches its thirst before the true darkness arrives. As the light dies, the savanna prepares for a brutal shift in power. The apex predators of South America completely own the incoming night. A subtle shift in the atmosphere paralyzes the entire massive herd. Fear is a necessary tool. It keeps their survival instincts razor sharp. They instinctively form a fortress of flesh against the encroaching darkness. The dominant male bravely puts himself between his family and the unknown. The ultimate apex predator of the flooded savannas has found them. The unmistakable, pungent scent of a big cat rides the evening breeze. Her brain instantly registers the immediate, fatal proximity of the stalker. Their only viable predator evasion tactic is immediate retreat to the deep. The most vulnerable members are violently shoved into the safest core position. The Jaguar is a flawless killing machine, engineered for this exact moment. A deafening alarm bark shatters the silence, signaling absolute immediate panic. The standoff ends in a chaotic, desperate scramble for the deep edge. In a split second, life or death is decided by sheer gravity. The only chance of survival against a jaguar is entirely underwater. They execute a breathtaking, perfectly synchronized aquatic escape into the darkness.
Their dense bodies act like massive boulders crashing into the safety below. Instantly, they vanish, embracing the suffocating but safe aquatic depths entirely.
Even the calves know they must hold their breath to survive this.
In mere seconds, 50 giant rodents have completely vanished from the earth.
The frustrated jaguar is defeated, and it will not risk the deep water. They surface like ghosts, completely silent and perfectly hidden in the gloom. The current embraces them, silently carrying the massive family to absolute safety. They watch the fading shoreline, victorious in their daily battle for life. Against all odds, the entire generation survives to see another flooded dawn. The twilight hunting grounds now belong entirely to the true nocturnal masters. The river is dangerous, but it remains their greatest and only sanctuary. The immense stress of the grueling day finally washes away completely. Together, they have conquered another brutal cycle in the unforgiving flooded savanna. For the swamp sentinels, tomorrow the endless journey begins all over again.